What if you were able to have any superpower? What would you choose? Would you pick the ability to fly or invisibility or maybe even super strength? We've all been asked this question before and probably even given it a bit of thought. And my guess is we'd all answer a little bit differently based on our own reasons. What if I asked you what superpower you would give to your contact center? Many of us would immediately answer super speed and then quickly qualify that with, but it can't come at the expense of accuracy or empathy. And with a little more time to think, we might even ask for the ability to clone our best agent. My name's Shelley Bornhagen. I'm the Senior Vice President of Marketing and Client Services at Astute, and I'm excited to have a few minutes with you today to talk about an issue that we see many contact centers struggling with, and that issue is keeping up with the volume of email. We believe that automation is the best way to conquer this in a way that also allows you to supercharge your agents and your contact center. Email has been a significant and growing share of overall contact center interactions for a lot of years now. And according to HubSpot in a recent survey that they took, despite newer and faster forms of communication like digital channels that we know people are embracing, over 60% of the consumers that answered their survey said they still want to use email and web forms as primary forms of communication to contact companies for customer service issues. In addition to email remaining kind of a mainstay in terms of methods of communication, the total interactions are also on the rise. This was already true, but with recent events like COVID-19, many call centers are seeing huge spikes. And by huge spikes, some industries saw a shocking 300% increase during the first several weeks of the pandemic. And some companies continue to see a series of volume leaps as the situation continues to develop. Consumers have a ton of questions right now. They have questions that they never had before. What are the cleaning procedures at your facility? Do you have designated times for seniors to shop? Are you offering curbside service? What are you doing to keep employees safe? Where can I find your products online? When are you reopening? What will be different? Do I need to wear a mask? There's tons and tons of questions that we never expected to have to answer, and you probably didn't have answers in your knowledge base, although you might now. So as agents were adjusting to working from home, they were spending more time handling these new questions. They were spending more time in live interactions that were more complex, that they had to find answers for, and they just simply couldn't keep up, and email backlogs continued to swell. I've talked to many of our customers who are now in a situation where they have backlogs that are 10,000, 20,000, in some cases even 100,000 emails strong, and they have to react to this. People need answers. At the same time, consumers are watching more closely than ever how companies are responding. Being accurate and consistent in the information that we're providing is equally important. In a recent study by Dimension Research, they asked consumers what impacts their level of trust with a company. And the number one answer was offering an excellent customer experience, which is no surprise to us. We know that companies have been differentiating based on customer experience for a long time. But when those same customers were asked to define an excellent customer experience, they said fast, honest answers. And this tells us, right, that it's important that we're fast, but it's also important that we're accurate. So with interactions continuing to rise, and we know that this is going to happen in an uneven pace, it's not going to be smooth. And that fast, honest answers are what's driving brand loyalty. How on earth are you supposed to prepare and staff for this? Well, the answer is you can't. You can't staff for this, at least not in the traditional way. And the real key to success here is automation. And when we talk about automation, we're talking about how it can be used to support your team, not replace your team. If we break it down, there's really three main benefits to automation that we can look at. There's cost savings, elasticity in your business, and a better overall CX. In terms of cost savings, processing emails are really expensive, so a lot of the savings can just come from simply speeding up that process. If you think about it, an agent has to read the email, figure out what the issues are, code a case, write a response, figure out the goodwill, and pull all that together, and then either QA it themselves or send it to somebody else to be QA'd. And we've heard from some customers that this can be as expensive as $12 or $13 an email. But for the purpose of this conversation, let's just go with a lower estimate of $5 to $6 an email. So let's do the math on this and break it down. If a contact center has 10,000 emails a month that can be processed through automation, if an agent is doing the processing, it costs $5.50 per email. That's a cost of $55,000 per month. With automation, these same 10,000 emails can be processed at $1.50 an email or $15,000 a month. That's a difference of $40,000 a month. And over a year, that can add up to almost $500,000 in savings. Now that's great, but it doesn't matter if the quality of the response isn't good. And this gets to that cloning of our best agents that we talked about earlier. And we'll talk about it again in a few minutes, but the idea is to mimic live agent responses in order to preserve that human feel. As a second step, it's important to have an agent QA before the response goes out. If something doesn't sound right, they can fix it right there, and you know exactly what's going out to your consumers. The next major benefit with automation is elasticity. We believe that, again, interactions are going to continue to increase, but this isn't going to happen with a slow and steady climb. It would be great if it did, because then you could just mark on the chart where you need to hire each new agent. Unfortunately, that's not what we think will happen. What we do think will happen is a jerky set of peaks and valleys and even some hockey stick type effects as this starts to plot out. So having technology in place that can handle those spikes just makes sense. You create stability in your core team and let the virtual agent do the harder work when you need it. Technology doesn't need to sleep. It doesn't even need to take off for the weekends. So as you see those bumps and spikes, let the automation take over that work. This gives you a level of flexibility and reactiveness that I think is going to be necessary as we move forward and find our new normal. If we learned anything over the last few months, we learned to expect the unexpected. So don't be caught off guard by the next influx of emails that come your way. And I think that companies who are able to embrace this sooner are going to have a much easier time than those that wait. And finally, let's talk about how this can drive a better CX for your consumers. Providing a more timely response is absolutely a good start, but also giving agents the support they need will improve their overall experience as well. And they'll be able to spend the time that they need with consumers on live interactions without worrying about the backlog of email that might be building up behind them. And when it is time to work the email, the automation has done the tedious parts for them, and they can really focus on where they can provide the highest value, which is ensuring the message is the best it can be before going out to consumers. So this all sounds great in theory, but how does it really work? Well, at Astute, we've created an email virtual assistant, EVA, Eva for short, and she can automate a number of the steps in the email process for agents that we've just been talking about. So let's walk through the steps that she takes and figure out how this really works. Using NLP processing, she can read the incoming email and determine first how many issues are being reported. For example, if I bought a toy for my son and we find out that there's a piece missing, I call about missing piece and the person's rude to me on the phone. I might follow up with an email to Acme Toy Company to let them know, one, bummer, there's a piece missing, and also the person was rude to me. And basically, there's two distinct issues here now that came out of the same case. They need to be handled both in the response, but also they probably have different workflows. So once those issues are sorted, she can create a case and code it with the right reason codes and product or service codes, which will trigger the right workflows at the end. And the next step then is to determine what's the response that she's going to send to me. So to do this, she'll look at the history. She'll go back and take years of history of your best agents and figure out for the same reason codes, how did they handle this? What were their responses? She'll use this then as her approach to her response. Next, she's going to determine goodwill. And you can make business rules that Eva can use to determine the correct type and amount of goodwill that'll be given. And then all those pieces are pulled together and presented to an agent for QA. And the agent at this point can make any adjustments needed. And this ensures that you know exactly what's being sent out. And the really cool part is Eva will continue to learn from these adjustments and improve over time. If you're on Astute Agent today, this functionality is available to you, and I encourage you to talk to your CSM about how to take advantage. If you're on a different CRM system, don't worry. Eva can likely be integrated to work with the system you have in place. We all wish we could have superpowers. Well, now with Eva, you can. If you'd like to learn more about how Eva can work for you, email us at info@astutesolutions.com. On behalf of Astute, thank you so much for joining me today. and we look forward to talking to you soon.